8 o'clock to run east out.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fire.
We have ignition of the Ares 1 first stage 5-segment solid rocket motor.
Plus 10. Plus 20. Plus 30.
Amazing display of power.
Plus 40.
22 million horsepower.
Plus 50. Plus 60. Plus 70. Plus 80.
Central Support Systems Operator, quench water jelly.
Roger, enabled.
The water quench system is now being activated.
Plus 90.
Enable accumulator, turn on hydraulic pump.
Accumulator enabled. Hydraulic pump is on.
Plus 100. Plus 105.
Activate the aft jelly.
Absolute. Activate.
Plus 110.
Activate the forward jelly.
Approximately 10 seconds more. During the tail off
Plus
here.
120.
Well, on this first test, we're going to just get a wealth of ballistic performance data from this test. As you know, we've significantly modified the internal ballistics of this to meet our specific mission. So we are going to look for the specific trace of what we call the thrust time profile of this motor, which really, in layman's terms, is how hard at any point we're pressing on the gas pedal. Well, the 5-segment motor adds more total performance to this motor. The way these motors work, they actually burn from the center line out, and we haven't increased the diameter. So from that perspective, you haven't extended the burn time much. It's about the same burn time within a few segments of a shuttle. We've actually slowed down the burn rate so it burns an extra 4 or 5 seconds longer. But what it does do is, because of the extra segment length, it throws more mass through the nozzle. And this is all about Newton's laws and equal and opposite forces. And so as we throw more mass through the nozzle, we're able to lift more weight going up into space and propel faster off of the launch pad. One of the unique aspects of this vehicle is that as it goes up, we initially want a lot of thrust, and so we let it run free and go full bore for the first 10, 20 seconds. But then we actually, as we go through maximum dynamic pressure at about 60 seconds, we actually have designed it to slow down or let off of the accelerator. We don't do that with moving parts, we do that with the grain configuration. And then once we get through max dynamic pressure, again, we try and accelerate. So those are the nuances and characteristics that are much different about this mission than the shuttle mission. And that's what we've done under the hood. A couple of the major things that we're trying to do through these DM tests is we're trying to get the right thickness of insulator throughout the motor. And why that's important is because if we can reduce that weight, we can have more margin in putting our mass into orbit. And the insulator is one area where not only do you get to remove insulator, but you get to add propellant back in. And so you get it's a 2-for-1 so it's a very high leverage point.
This is a very big deal for Constellation. It's the first major fully integrated element test of the program, and it's the first time we're going to prove out the entire first stage as a full-up system. So this is a major, major milestone for the program. This is the most powerful rocket motor on the planet in existence. It produces 3.6 million pounds of thrust. Well, we've been working on this program now for close to 4 years, refining the design and then building an actual flight hardware unit that you'll see here tested today. So there's a tremendous amount of work that went into this developmental test, and I think the results will show just how high the quality was of that work as well. The safety is the top priority for the entire program, and actually it derives from the design objectives of the entire Ares vehicle, the Ares Orion system that will be the follow-on to the space shuttle for putting crew into space. Coming out of the Columbia Accident Investigation Board was a realization that the design at the front end needed to be cognizant of the best things that could be brought to bear in today's technology for crew safety. And the objective was to increase the levels of safety by at least a factor of 10 over what we had come to know shuttle had as a reliability. And so everything that has come together today, working closely with NASA, and everything we do in this program is geared towards picking design choices that will lead to the most reliable product that we can conceive of today. And that's why we take this so seriously, is that our #1 objective is to be highly reliable and achieve that goal of at least a 10-fold factor of safety improvement over shuttle.
Copy that, thank you. That's fine, but when we get ready for the fan test, I will need you all to move around that area to verify the fans indeed are moving and you are feeling air coming from them. Okay, thank you. All right. And FC, you've got to go. Right.
Your closure.
They're probably they're on.
Oh, you know what? She's having lunch with
Not bringing.
It's just, he goes out there for kind of quality control.
And where is that?
That's in Op 140. That's when.
Okay.
How's things going so far?
Things are very well. This is, you couldn't write it any better if you'd had a script. And it's going perfectly.
Yeah, she is. Hold on one second.
Okay, you're gonna be off from on ETS later, correct? Okay, and AFP. There are approval requirements for document improvement plan, and agree with them on 161 if we have to handle, but if it's a simple pen and ink, it's not required to go get them. Yeah.
We got power, y'all.
See with power application, yeah.
They're behind the steps right now, so they're working.
They don't 120 is good.
NASA counterparts. Yes, sir.
And Ares 1X is rolling. (1:39 a.m. Eastern Time). Ares 1X is beginning its 4.2 mile roll to launch pad 39B. And we're now 30 seconds into the roll. Once it reaches the threshold of the VAB, then the xenon lights should come on as it comes through the high bay doors. This picture looking out from VAB High Bay 3 toward the Ares 1X rocket, which is now fully outside of High Bay 3 and being bathed in xenon lights. It begins its journey. Looking toward the bottom of the Ares 1X, gradually panning up the rocket. Saw a pan from the bottom to the top of the Ares 1X, including the simulated Orion crew module and launch abort system. All of the We're looking at the aft of the mobile launcher platform and crawler transporter as seen from VAB High Bay 3, looking out toward the vehicle, and the crawler transporter now gradually moving up to its 0.8 of a mile an hour planned speed as it goes to the launch pad. And once the rollout began, there has not been any reason to stop so far. This is Ares 1X launch operations, and we are 5 hours, 20 minutes, and 50 seconds into the rollout of the Ares 1X launch vehicle, which left the Vehicle Assembly Building's High Bay 3 last night at 1:39 a.m. Since that time, the vehicle has been moving along quite well, and we should have sunrise in about the next 25 minutes, which should give us a much clearer view of the rocket. The rollout was originally targeted for midnight, but was approximately an hour and a half late, simply due to the newness of a procedure involved in all of the mission unique disconnects of everything from the vehicle and mobile launcher platform, and we're tracking all of the access platforms back into their stowed position. So far overnight, it's been a very smooth rollout. The vehicle made the turn toward Pad B, where the crawlaway divides between Pad A and Pad B shortly before 6 a.m. Meanwhile, Space Shuttle Atlantis is on Pad A, where that vehicle will be powered up this morning for testing in about a half an hour. The weather has been favorable all night long, and there have been no weather issues since the vehicle left the VAB. Once the vehicle is atop the pad surface and on the launcher pedestals, then a series of activities will begin to secure it to the pad, to establish access, and to begin making connections. This is Ares launch operations. We're 5 hours and 36 minutes into the rollout of the Ares 1X vehicle. Right now, many of the launch pad members are beginning to report to the pad to begin to receive the Ares 1X vehicle. One of the first things that needs to be done is to assure the readiness of the rotating service structure, which, like shuttle, will provide access to the vehicle. And they're doing some preparations now so that once the vehicle is atop the pad, the rotating service structure can be moved into position around it. This is Ares 1X launch operations. The Ares 1X vehicle is now inside the pad fence and is now starting up the ramp, up the slope of the pad. The speed is reduced now to about 0.2 miles per hour as it makes its way up the pad between 0.2 and 0.4. The stack that we see there, the Ares 1X, the mobile launcher platform, and the crawler transporter, together all weigh 16 million pounds. Just the vehicle and the mobile launcher platform that the crawler transporter is carrying weighs 11,067,000 pounds. Once the shuttle is atop the pad, it will protrude significantly over the fixed service structure. At 327 feet, it is 143 feet taller than the space shuttle. There are 4 solid rocket booster segments comprising the Ares 1X. The oldest booster is 20 years old and flew on STS-29 in March of 1989. The most recent booster came from STS-106, which flew in September of 2000. And all of the various parts that comprise the Ares 1X booster have come from over 30 different space shuttle missions. 100 in approximately 2014. And then the third test flight called Orion 1, which will actually achieve orbit. The vehicle completely level. There's a computerized leveling system as part of the crawler transporter that senses exact level for the vehicle that is on it and the mobile launcher platform. In the foreground, one of the 3 new Lightning protection masts, which extend over 600 feet. And then the launch pad structure, which still consists of the rotating service structure, on which some additional access has been established for the first stage avionics module. This is Ares 1X launch operations, 6 hours, 40 minutes into the rollout, and we can see the edge of the mobile launcher approaching the launcher pedestals. These are what we will set the mobile launcher platform onto once it is completely over all of the pedestals, and then we can get into all of our other activities that we are hoping will be finished by around lunchtime. This is Ares 1X launch operations. The Ares 1X vehicle now being carefully maneuvered into position over the launcher pedestals. One of the things that you can see in this picture is the vehicle stabilization system, the 2 white arms off to either side, will actually enclose the rocket while it's on the launch pad. This is because it's so thin and tall, it needs some help in being completely stabilized during all the activities that go on the pad, plus any wind and weather that comes in. So this will enclose the rocket to keep it steady, and that's one of the first things that they want to do once we're hard down on the pad. And the motion is now underway. Movement is beginning. The pins are being lowered inside the pedestal. You can see one here. This is done very slowly, but the operation to lower onto the pedestals is underway.
the word over on 232, but the DFI assessment is complete and SE&I related.
This
to
is Ares
DFI
1X launch control, T-minus 50 minutes, 5 seconds and counting. Where now that we have first motion on the rotating service structure, that's now moving back away from the launch vehicle. Another milestone in our countdown. We've also just gotten word back that the retesting of the development flight instrumentation, the DFI, that is now complete, and all of the DFI instruments on the vehicle are testing good. There have been no problems from the lightning strike overnight, so all of the test instrumentation on the vehicle looks good, and that also included a very encouraging report about the status of the 5-hole probe on top of the vehicle, which there was some concern about should any water get down in there. And right now the analysis of the probe indicates that it's in pretty good status for supporting our launch today. So that is very good news. So we're watching the rotating service structure in motion and standing by to actually see first motion of the vertical stabilization system being pulled back. They do have a go for that. And we're now at T-minus 45 minutes, 41 seconds and counting. This is Ares 1X launch control. Ares 1X launch control, T-minus 36 minutes, 38 seconds and counting. We now see the vertical stabilization system being retracted from around the Ares 1X rocket. This is done in 2 phases, each arm one at a time. I'll see the second arm beginning to move. So we reached another milestone in our countdown with the rotating service structure back and the vertical vehicle stabilization system arms being retracted. We are another step closer to a launch this morning. Right now, looking at our projected launch times, no earlier than 9 o'clock, possibly 9:15. But it's not really been nailed down yet, still based on work remaining and retest remaining. But between 9 and 9:15 is best estimate. And we're at T-minus 35 minutes, 20 seconds and counting. This is Ares 1X launch control.
At the Parachute Refurbishment Facility at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida, booster recovery parachutes are being prepared and packed for the Ares 1X flight test Aided by an overhead monorail system, experienced parachute technicians begin the packing process by delicately stepping into the canister and tying down sections of the canopy. Each 2,000-pound canopy consists of strong strips of material sewn together in a latticework design which looks similar to a pie crust top, suspended by 165-foot suspension lines. This design allows the wind to flow through the blossoming canopy, stabilizing the entire stack. The intricate packing process and specific placement in the canister is important for the canopy to open properly. The 3 colossal-sized parachutes cover more than 2 acres when opened, and each chute from end to end is 325 feet long. Designed larger and stronger than the Space Shuttle booster recovery system, the Ares system requires 3 chutes to support a more than 200,000-pound object falling from an altitude of 189,000 feet. Although the chutes are bigger than their shuttle predecessors, they still fit into the same sized container thanks to the use of Kevlar, a material that makes the Ares parachutes stronger and lighter. Technicians, using a hydraulic press and hand tools, compress the contents to fit snugly inside its canvas cover bag, completing the packing process. The parachute system will enable the spent rocket boosters to gently float back to Earth, splashing in the ocean where they'll be recovered by NASA's Freedom Star and Liberty Star recovery ships.
This video in the Mission Director Center at NASA Hangar AE. We see our Deputy Mission Manager, John Cowart, along with other team members from Kennedy Space Center, Marshall Space Flight Center, Langley Research Center. And also teams from ATK and the Launch Vehicle Data Center. This is in Firing Room 1, where we see our Launch Test Director, Jeff Spaulding, and our Assistant Launch Vehicle Test Conductor, Bob Hall, all going through the activities necessary for our launch attempt yesterday. This is our prime team consisting of about 50 people.
Yeah, your voltage would be, you'd lose your voltage before you got
This firing room is the Young Crippen firing room, completely reconfigured from a space shuttle. And now we're at Launch Pad 39B, where we see the teams preparing to move back the access arm, the upper stage access arm. And then the preparations to retract the rotating surface structure as well. Here's the first motion of the rotating surface structure. And the vertical stabilization system being pulled away from the rocket yesterday. And the upper stage, which extends almost 100 feet above the top of the fixed surface structure, and from Pad 39B looking over to Space Shuttle Atlantis on Pad 39A.
On my mark, time will be T-minus 4 minutes and counting. 3, 2, 1, mark. T-minus 4 minutes and counting.
11:30 is our launch time.
T-minus 3 minutes, 30 seconds, FTS SNA armed. T-minus 3 minutes, 25 seconds, SRM ignition, SNA armed.
That's the range safety systems being armed. The vehicle will go to internal power at T-minus 1 minute, 59 seconds.
T-minus 3 minutes, fan power secured.
T-minus 2 minutes, 15 seconds. T-minus 2 minutes. Vehicle going to internal power. Ares 1X now on its own power. Now applying power to the DFI, the Development Flight Instrumentation. Flight data recorders are activated. Launch is enabled for the flight control system. T-minus 90 seconds. And the handoff of the ground computers to the Ares 1X flight computer has occurred. T-minus 1 minute. Sound suppression water system now armed. The solid rocket booster joint heaters are being turned off. And we're now go inertial. The navigation system is activated. Auxiliary power units have started. Solid rocket motor nozzle gimbal checks are underway. Ignition system is armed. Sound suppression water system is activated. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff of Ares 1X. Testing concepts for the future of new rocket design.
Altitude now 2 miles. Chamber pressure now tapering off as designed. The vehicle is aligned itself with the planned trajectory. We passed Mach 1 and we're now passing Max Q. We have our Max Q system ID maneuver PTI engaged. Solid motor chamber pressure picking up again. T plus 62 seconds. Now passing Mach 2. Vehicle now 10 miles altitude, downrange distance 8 miles, and a velocity of 1,540 miles per hour. Plus 80 seconds, we've started our supersonic large amplitude ID maneuver PTI. We see the response. Started the last PTI maneuver, structural mode ID, and we passed T plus 105 seconds. Vehicle's now traveling Mach 4, 20 miles altitude, downrange distance 32 miles. The SRM tail off is observed. Burnout. Our APUs have shut down. CRDs have shut down. BDM fire. And SEP. We show a SEP. And we'll have a burnout orbit parameter in just a second. These numbers were calculated right at burnout. The height of apogee, 21.92 nautical miles. And again, that's not peak altitude because the vehicle was still drifting up, but that is at burnout. Coming up on T plus 190 seconds. After vehicle separation, we have no guidance telemetry return. We're still looking at a good telemetry signal. And we can confirm the aeroshell separation.
It's our telemetry engineer, Mark Levine, making the telemetry calls, assisted by J.J. Joyner.
Up on plus 235 seconds. Our data quality of telemetry is still very good with the remaining TM channels. Not too much to report. The vehicle is gently returning to Earth at the time. We expect it under the parachute, and we were hoping for a visual confirmation from the downrange resources, but as of yet we have not heard from our downrange resources. Next event on the vehicle is the severance of the nozzle to minimize damage on water impact. passing T plus 325 seconds. And at this time, we are LOS here at the AE data station. We've had very good signal throughout the entire mission. We've just passed T plus 360 seconds. We should be under the main parachute at this time. And unfortunately, our antennas just are not receiving the vehicle anymore.
And we did have some brief video of one of the chutes deploying.
At this point, the vehicle should have landed in the ocean. We're getting a report from our downrange resource. They have confirmed upper stage water impact. And again, that was the upper stage. And this is Ares 1X flight commentary. We're basically done with the active part of the mission. Now it's recovery time, and we still have not heard positive confirmation from the first stage splashdown, but we expect it. It may have been missed on our audio channel. And
let's think about what we just did. Our first flight test, and the only thing we were waiting on was weather. That says you all did frickin' fantastic. So thank you very much. See, I'm going to have our Center Director say a few words, and then we have something to present. And I know the folks in AE, if someone can show up a finger if they can hear us, a thumbs up if you can hear us out there. Maybe not. Okay, well, maybe they can hear us, maybe not. But here's our Center Director.
I can't tell you how proud I am of all of you. That was just unbelievable. It was spectacular. I got tears in my eyes. You know, all the naysayers, that was just one of the most beautiful rocket launches I've ever seen. And when you consider 3 years ago this was a blank piece of paper, what this team has accomplished across the NASA centers, contractors, civil service team working together as one, it shows what we can do when we have a common goal, a common vision, and we all work together as one team. And I'm just so proud of each and every one of you. Outstanding job. It was really special. Thanks for everything you do. I just couldn't be more pleased. Thank you. Ed, before we hang a plaque, I think you all know that not only was it the first launch out of the Young Crippen control room, but we have a new launch director in a very first launch. And there's a tradition that goes with that.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is our post-launch news conference for Ares 1X. And here to talk about today's launch and the status of our Ares 1X is Doug Cook, the Associate Administrator for Exploration Systems Mission Directorate at NASA headquarters. Jeff Hanley, the Constellation Program Manager. Bob S., the Ares 1X Mission Manager. And Ed Mango, the Ares 1X Launch Director. And we'll begin first with Doug Cook. Doug?
Thank you. Well, how cool was this Ares 1X flight test? I guess you could say it was turbo electrifying. It's a new word we learned. T-shirts to follow. But it was great. I can't say enough about this team. They've been together probably a little over 3 years now, and they went from a concept to flying this vehicle in that period of time, which, and this is the first time this has been done by a human spaceflight team in a long time. So I can't say enough about the NASA and industry folks that worked on it. It was, in the end, for certain, it was an integrated team. They all worked well together and worked their hearts out to get this to fly, and did just a tremendous job. So can't say enough about that. We're learning a lot. We learned a lot just getting to this point, and now we're going to learn a lot more from the flight test itself. The vehicle flew well, and we're going to get a lot of data back, and we're going to learn a lot that'll stand us in good stead for the future. So with that, I'll let you hear from the guys that know more about it and can tell you all the details.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks, Doug. Now to Jeff Hanley, the Constellation Program Manager.
And my comments are very brief. I'm going to let Bob and Ed give you the details of how the day transpired, the last couple of days actually. I do not want to hear the word electrified stuff anymore. And you, from this point on, won't hear us being worried about it, because on the objective design of whatever we end up flying, this will not be a problem. But the team is tired, but extremely satisfied, as you might imagine, with the result. And we couldn't be prouder of Bob and his team, Ed and his team. They worked through, when I came in tonight, actually early this morning, I was not sure we were even going to launch today because of the lightning strikes in the vicinity of the pad overnight. And this team worked through that methodically, looked at the data, listened to the vehicle, and let the vehicle show us that it was ready to fly. And I'll let, as I say, I'll let them give you some of the specifics of that story. But really impressive that we got to a launch readiness today at all, and we were ready when Mother Nature was ready, and we took our opportunity, and what a great outcome. Flew straight as an arrow, and we're very proud of the result. So with that, I'll hand it to Bob.
All right, Bob S., our Ares 1X Mission Manager. Bob?
Thanks. So obviously spectacular day. I mean, absolutely spectacular. The team is extremely excited. The vehicle flew, as we expected, even better than we expected. You saw at the beginning, with the whole cloud issue, and it took us a while to get here. So the last couple of days were pretty challenging to get to that point. As Jeff said, in all cases, the vehicle was always ready. So the vehicle we spent the last 3 years putting together has been ready to fly. It's other issues that we worked through, and today we just saw all that take place. From the very beginning, from the liftoff, you saw the flyaway maneuver. It may look a little strange as the vehicle took off from the pad and had a little bit of an angle to it. It's a 300-foot vehicle, and so a little bit of angle, it really shows up a lot when you're looking from it. So from that point, it flew perfectly. It flew, just down the plan that we had, right down the line. No significant deviations. We were talking about previously roll torque, what would make the booster roll. So we put a special roll control system on there. It hardly worked at all today. Our simulations would show it fired 20, 25 times. Today it fired 3 times as it went through. So very benign flight. The separation, separated where it should as far as the velocity and altitude, as far as we can tell so far. We had some dynamics on the upper stage, looks like, after the separation. Right now we just have the same video that you may have seen. It'll take us a little while to get some data back to understand the separation, but the separation event itself seemed pretty clean. The upper stage seemed to have some dynamics once we passed by. The booster's in the water. We have the recovery ship out going to get it. No reports or any video to share with you as far as parachute deploy or that portion of it, but because we have a booster in the water, it must have worked pretty well. And so that's the big picture of what we know today. Again, everything worked perfectly, and it was a superb flight. So great team put it together for the last 3.5 years, and we're very proud of everybody.
Thank you, Bob, and to Ed Mango, the Ares 1X launch director. Ed?
Yeah, good afternoon. It is just a fantastic day. I think you heard how happy I was after launch for the team that did this for the last 3 years, and the team that did this for the last week, and the team that did it for the last 2 days. The team really excelled. I can't say enough about the folks that worked together to go make this thing happen. It was a great team, and as you can tell, it was a great vehicle. The vehicle flew very well. The vehicle was ready to fly both days. All we had to do is wait for Mother Nature to get us there. And when she got us there, we're ready to go fly. And I can't say enough about how well the vehicle performed pre-flight and then throughout the flight. The other day I said something about this developmental flight stuff is fun, and I'll echo that again. This developmental flight stuff is a lot of fun. It's a lot of hard work, but you can see the results. And the results are, if you get enough people to work together to make something happen, it can happen. Anything can happen, and that's what NASA does best. We did have some challenges as far as the launch, trying to get off the ground the last 2 days. Yesterday we had a couple challenges. The first is our first time of a new rocket. And so trying to work through everything at the pad and get out of the pad on time and all that took a little bit longer than we had thought. But again, it was the first time. It wasn't that anything was broke. It wasn't that there was any major issues or hiccups with what we're trying to get done. It was just work that had to get done. It took just a little bit longer than we had planned. Today, we had other issues, and yet the work that had to get done at the pad was really clicking along. And that's a learning curve kind of thing. Later on, yesterday, we had the probe cover problem, and that's like a parachute kind of material with a big long string, if you want to call it that, and that fishing line is a 1,000-pound force fishing line. So that's why when we pulled it, the fishing line did not break. And it took a little bit of challenge to get that off of the 5-hole probe. But with a little muscle, both of the folks that were up there working on it were able to get it off and basically rip off the parachute part of it, and that got us behind. I think everyone was in a sigh of relief when that happened. That was one of our major issues to get through. We got through it, and then we're ready to go wait on weather. Unfortunately, weather didn't cooperate with us throughout the day yesterday, so we took a day. We came back. Last night, about 10:30 or so, we got a couple lightning strikes within half a mile of the pad. Just like Jeff said, when I got the call this morning, or last night, I guess, that said we got some lightning strikes, I said, oh, we're going to have a tough time clearing this. And but we also, I asked the team to not work the flight rationale at 10:30. I asked them to go work each step. What does it take to get the power up? What does it take to get to the systems power up? What does it take to start IMUs or FTINU? What does it take to do each of those steps? And as we worked through that, we finally got to the point where we have enough data to build flight rationale. So we didn't get into this go build flight rationale from the get-go and really have to hammer that down. We took it each step through. By the time we got the flight rationale, the folks that supported us from the launch team and the launch support team throughout the country brought together some flight rationale. It was very solid. It's the best solid rationale I've seen as a lightning strike I've seen in a very long time. And because of that, we were able to go fly. That was the only issue we had today other than weather. And when weather was good, we looked for the hole in the clouds, we saw it, and we took off into it. And again, another fantastic day, and it's great to work. It's the development flight stuff.
Thank you, Ed. We're ready now to take questions. So please give your name and affiliation when the microphone comes to you. And we'll start here over on the left with Bill Harwood.
Hi guys, Bill Harwood with CBS News with a couple of quick ones. On a parachute deploy for anybody, I guess I was surprised that nobody could get a visual on that based on where the ship was. Was it just too far away, or is it a case that nobody's been able to talk to him yet, number one? And for Doug, I realize this isn't a change since before you launched. It's the same situation politically in Washington, but with a test as smooth as this one appears to be, do you have any increased hope of selling this rocket?
As far as the parachutes, the onboard camera did show the drogue chute come out, so we know the sequence started. So that worked out well. After that, we lost the video signal from that. The SRB recovery ship, we've had no reports that they saw the parachutes. They do believe they know where it is. I mean, they know where it is. They saw splashes in the water and figured out where it was, but they've been able to track it, and they should be there right now, picking it up. I think so. They are there, picking the booster up. But I think it was just where they were, just didn't have a chance to lock onto it and see it.
From the standpoint of this test, you know, we are working from the recent Augustine report and the decisions that will come from that. During this period of time, we were instructed to continue on the path of the current program, and so we are executing on that, and this test will be of value regardless of any decisions in the future. We're learning about validating our models, our math models for aeroacoustics, the loads, the aerodynamics. We'll understand more about thrust oscillation on a single booster vehicle. It's about learning from it. So we will go through all the steps with the administration on decisions. We don't have decisions at this point, and but you know, all of the data from the Augustine report, all the data that exists, I'm sure will be taken into account.
Jay?
Jay Barbary with NBC. Dr. Cook, to follow up on Bill's question there, it's been 37 years since American astronauts have left Earth orbit. And what you've seen here probably today, one could argue, is 5 decades of experience and know-how. And yet there's a push on for commercialization of space right now. People that are flown a rocket one time, successful out of 5 tries. They don't have this background, this experience, this wealth of knowledge. Bill Gerstenmaier told me that you guys are going to go and sit down and come to a conclusion of what you think should be done after you read the Augustine report. And you're going to go talk, and that would of course be with General Bolden, go talk to the president of what the heck that you think you should do. Now, this demonstration today shows a continuation of experience of, it's the 207th successful flight of the solid booster. The man who has the most successful record with a single rocket, the Delta II, General Lester Lyles, came out the other day and said, you guys should continue. This is a path you should go. Nobody should bet the farm on trying to get commercialization in their baby steps to take over the safety of flying astronauts in orbit. So my question I'm finally going to get to, are you guys are going to go in and sit down and argue facts and real facts instead of pie in the sky?
Well, I can tell you that within the agency, based on what we were learning along the way on the Augustine Commission and the open sessions they had, we've had internal agency strategy decisions trying to work in parallel and understand all the facets of it. I can tell you that in those, Charlie Bolden has led them, and he's listening to all the facts. We're putting all the facts on the table internally with NASA, and that will, you know, that will all factor into this. We are interested though in helping the commercial industry progress, and we do have the COTS program actually in my organization, where we are investors basically in their activities, where they meet milestones and we make payments. So we're on a path to help them get there. So, and they're making progress. So, yes, you're seeing experience, but I'll tell you something else that you're seeing. You're seeing actually a pretty streamlined NASA team of people who are, since we haven't done this in a long time, are really kind of learning how to do this from beginning with the concept through design and development and testing. And flying, we're somewhat reinventing that as we go. So, but you're seeing some of the best that NASA has putting that to work. So, it's all about the team in this case.
Bobby?
Bobby Block from the Orlando Sentinel. I've got a quick one for Bob, I guess it is, and then a follow-up. You had, we were shown a list the other day of what you would classify as success, and I wanted to know how you would go down that checklist, and also to find out what data did you get back? Did you get any data about bending? I mean, is there anything that you got from the original telemetry that you can share?
Okay, so first question, we completely met our success criteria. In fact, we blew them away. The first one was to roll out. Obviously, we did that one. Clear the pad. We did that without a problem. Fly the intended flight path. We certainly did that one. We've confirmed that. It flew just right down the pipe. And the last one was to learn from the flight. And we've already learned, was an hour and a half, 2 hours from the flight. We're already there. All of our data systems on board worked. We know that they're all activated. The 5-hole probe, the one with the socket was going through. They got a little bit of rain overnight as well. There were some concerns there. Early indications are showing all that worked during the flight. So everything so far from a data architecture, the sensors, the system, all that was operational. It'll take a little while for us to go back and get that. In fact, the data recorder itself is on the booster. Even though everything was sent down via telemetry, we haven't had a chance to go back and look at all those besides basic health areas that's working. So far, we're on a path to learn a lot. I mentioned before that the separation seemed a little different than we predicted as far as how the upper stage reacted after separation. So right there is an opportunity for us to jump in and figure out what was different in the actual flight from our models. So hugely successful.
And a follow-up for Jeff and for Doug. For several years now, you guys have insisted that everything's on track, budget-wise, schedule, progress. And every independent look into has come at odds with that, what you guys have been saying. How do you explain the fact that you're having a difficult time selling to the independent people looking in that you guys are where you are?
I can't speak for them. We're doing our job. We're doing we're working through working through every issue that we get. We flew a successful flight today. I don't know that we've seen it. For instance, I don't know that we've seen any indication of thrust oscillation. We'll have to see data later, but the onboard cameras certainly were pretty steady. But that I don't know if that's the total indication either. But we're working through, and we're keeping our heads down and just doing the job. So I mean, we've been through just this summer. We've been through on another program. That's within exploration. We've had LRO and LCROSS. They've been going very well, successful. We've had the Orion preliminary design review, successful in August. We had the first 5-stage engine test of this design in September, and now we've had this flight test. So all we can do is get our job done, and I can't speak for others.
And all I would add to that is that the opinions that are out there expressed during the Augustine public meetings, as well as even the reviews, the external reviews that we've had here for the past 4 years, the Constellation's been one of the most externally reviewed programs that I think you'll find, with at least over a dozen external reviews at various levels. We were very informed by those external reviews. They help us to adjust our course programmatically, to help us think of the things that perhaps we're not thinking of and account for those. I was heartened by the comments made during the Augustine public hearings that when the panel recognized through the assessments that had been done for them that NASA has done pretty much what it said it would do with the current program, even under a very dynamic, if you will, budget environment of the last 4 years. We certainly are challenged from a budget perspective and therefore a schedule perspective, but the opinions that are out there as to the executability of the program on the schedule that we have, I think your mileage varies a bit, and depending on the assumptions that you make. So we're just now getting the details of the Augustine report, and we will go in and understand the details of the aerospace assessments that were done. We'll go query aerospace on the assumptions they made, and if there's something that we're not accounting for, we'll certainly account for it in our assessments.
Irene?
Irene Klotz with Reuters for either Doug or Jeff. In addition to the analysis from the 1X flight, could you maybe just give us a little overview of where things stand with the Ares program, and also as far as the bigger Constellation program, what's been on hold aside from Altair Lander and Ares 5 contracts while the review process is underway, and however long it'll be before some direction is given, if there's any change? Thanks.
Actually, our direction was to continue on with the work that was underway, and that's what we have been doing. So we haven't. We did put two potential study contracts on hold. We thought that was prudent, but in terms of the Constellation program, we have been working through our schedules, and we've been on track with the work that we're doing through development of facilities and the program milestones, the project milestones. We are continuing to execute according to the direction that we've been under. So, well, some specifics are that we opened the ONC building here at Kennedy. We're continuing to make progress on Ares 1 launch mobile launch platform. We are building an A3 test stand down at Stennis. We're making modifications at Michoud in Mississippi for manufacturing. As I mentioned, the Orion preliminary design review has been held, and we've been doing these tests. As I mentioned, the DM1 test on the 5-segment booster, this test today of the Ares 1X, and coming up early this coming year, we have the Pad Abort 1 test for Orion. So these are examples of milestones that we are continuing to execute, working to get them underway and make progress on it.
Marcia?
Marcia Dunn, Associated Press, for Mr. Hanley. Given the criticism in recent months, years of Ares, and you've taken some heat as well, I'm wondering if you feel a sense of vindication today, given the what looks to be a successful flight.
Vindication's not really does not describe it well. It's a sense of validation that that the course that we had laid out is executable. An early demonstration like this puts aside any doubts, I think, in our minds, that if we had them, as to the flyability of this particular design. We have a design that will do the country service if it is put into service. The performance of the vehicle was very pleasing, to put it mildly, and I think incredibly satisfying for the Ares Project Office team at Marshall Space Flight Center that has put so much into that flight test vehicle to bring it to today's results. So it validates for them that they're pretty much on track with where they were headed technically. It was the Ares 1 guidance algorithms that flew the vehicle, the Ares 1 recovery system that functioned to return the booster, and so from that perspective, it's a great validation for the team.
Here.
Clara Moskowitz with Space.com, and this is for Bob S., but also for anybody. I'm wondering if anything about the flight surprised you.
How hard it was to actually get to the flight itself was. we first time flight. You've heard me go to conferences. The first time we're doing it, brand new vehicle, all those things together. We expected to have a fair amount of problems during the count leading up to the flight, and a fair amount of problems in the integrated testing over the last couple months. And those were nearly flawless. We had very little problems, if not zero problems, with our primary flight control throughout the build-up and the VAB, our testing at the pad, and the count leading up. So that was pleasantly surprising that we didn't have those kind of problems. Getting there, all the other miscellaneous things, and Ed went through a handful of them that we had today and yesterday. That was the part we didn't expect, as to when it all comes together, when the final push, how these little things seem to come out of nowhere to get in your way. As far as the way the vehicle flew, maybe there'll be some surprises as we look through the data over the next few weeks and a few months. But everything was just how we expected. It was just like the animations we've been showing. It flew at the same speed and the same distance. It just looked much more spectacular in person than it did, in planning. So.
Chris Gebhardt with NASASpaceflight.com. One for Ed. That cover yesterday that you had trouble getting off the probe, had you not been able to get that off, I assume you would have been good to go fly. Correct?
Yeah, we had already started some conversations about can we cut the cord and let the cord just hang there basically and then fly in that condition. And we already started some of those preliminary discussions. At the same point, we asked if the rope is really a 1,000-pound test. We can pull, and let's go try to pull as much as we can before we go down another route. So we would have gotten to a pretty good flight state. The good news is we did a number of simulations over the last 2 months or so. And in one of those simulations, the sim team, which is diabolical, they threw leaving the cover on, and how do we go fly with a cover that's stuck on. And so we had already worked through the technical part of what that really meant to us in terms of loss of data and those kind of things. And so when it actually happened, we had some homework done that can help us get there. So I can't say we would have flown with it or not flown with it. We certainly would have had a good conversation and probably would have gotten to a conclusion that we could have flown with it.
And probably one for Bob. At SRB SEP today, you know, when the upper stage sort of veered the other way from the SRB, you know, it could look to the untrained eye like the SRB and the upper stage simulator contacted there after separation. Is that something that you think is possible, or do you just think it was the aerodynamic effect, an unexpected aerodynamic effect on the upper stage that caused it?
Yeah, it was tough to tell. We all saw the same video. It's tough to tell for sure. I don't think they actually recontacted, but we'll know more as we look through it. You know, the nominal separation would have separated at the plane, and the upper stage keep going, you know, its merry way, and the booster kind of back off away from it. And we know the booster separation motors, deceleration motors fired, the booster tumble motors fired. So that sequencing seemed to work well. So if anything, you know, that we would suspect could be the separation conditions. Do we have a little more angle than we thought we did? Were the aerodynamics a little differently? Was it maybe at a higher dynamic pressure than we expected? There was something that was that precluded from going straight on. We don't know anymore at this point. It was very interesting, and said before, interesting is good. We love those kind of things, to go and dig into a little more detail. So we'll let you know when we know more in another couple of weeks. But right now it was different than we expected, but it really wasn't dramatically, you know, wasn't nothing wrong with it, just different.
The behavior of the booster was perfectly as expected, because it is designed to tumble.
Right here.
Gina Sinceri, ABC News for Jeff Hanley. Did you ever want to go outside and shake your fist at the weather gods and say, why me?
Well, I will tell you, I wish Kathy Winters was here, from our range weather officer, because if somebody was in the middle of the dynamo that was the you know, on again, off again nature of the last 2 days, it was Kathy Winters, and she did a tremendous job searching for the right conditions, and these were rules that she's required to honor. She didn't create them, and we're very lucky to have someone of that caliber, and the cooperation of the range. The range worked very hard to get us launched today, and they were ultimately successful. We you know, of course, would have liked to have had more windows to shoot for, but you know, it working out today. I told a few of my folks I was, in retrospect, looking back at it, happy if you could say that we didn't go yesterday, because if it had launched yesterday, we would have lost it in the clouds, and we collectively would not have been able to see it like we did today. So the weather gods parted the clouds for us today, gave us the right conditions, and we put on a good show. So.
Jim Siegel from the Celebration Independent newspaper. Question for Bob and Ed. We saw the replay tapes after the launch. They were very good, spectacular, in fact. Very interesting, and I think the American people will have a couple of questions about what they may have seen when they see those replays. For example, there appeared, number one, to be a kind of plume coming off of the top of the spacecraft as it was reaching its apogee. And secondly, when the top sections of the rocket on separation appeared to fold on each other and then kind of tumble, was that expected or not expected?
Yeah, so the first one, what that view was, really was a reflection off the front of the camera, right in front of the booster. And as you can tell, as it went further and further up in flight, it got brighter and brighter, but it mimicked the booster plume getting bigger and bigger as it expanded. So that was just an illusion based on the camera, that there was something up front. Secondly, the nominal plan for separation really was for the upper stage and for the booster to stay in line and the booster would back away from it and then start tumbling. This looks like the upper stage kind of folded back a little bit, and that's all we really know is that it did that. It's not unheard of in our simulations. If you simulate a higher rate at separation or a higher angle at separation, you would get that effect. So we've seen it before in simulations. All it shows is that we were kind of off the middle of the pipe at this point, sometimes a little off nominal, but not unexpected, but just off nominal.
Right, let's go to the back here and we'll work forward. No.
Hi, Craig Kavalt with Spaceflight Now. Over the last year and a half or so, there's been an awful lot of attention in an engineering sense paid to the roll torque issue, and today it sounds like it was moderate, if not minor. How significant is how you were able to prove that out today from an engineering standpoint in terms of validation of this whole design?
Let me answer from what we saw today, and then I can let Jeff go through what that means as far as the areas and implications there. For today, we saw the roll control basically do three couples of firings. That's it fires in one direction and gets it rolling, and then has to fire to stop the motion. So 3 of those sets is what we witnessed today based on our early data. We've done many simulations showing us that 20 or 25 times that it fired based on the roll torque models that we put into our simulations. So what it showed today is there was a whole lot less roll torque in this booster, in this vehicle, than the models that we've been using is kind of like the worst case. So much less than expected. What that means to the team,
well, so it's another data point for us, right? And we've been instrumenting shuttle boosters out on the test stand out in Utah when we do engineering motor firings out in Utah. We've been instrumenting those for the past few firings to also look for any kind of roll component or roll torque, if you will, to the output of the motor. And that includes the proper instrumentation of the recent Development Motor 1 firing. In all cases, the data is, we're building a data set that tells us that this roll torque is very small if it exists at all. And so that's going to give us confidence to then go back and relook at the Ares 1 design and what extent of a roll control system do we really need. We were conservative with the sizing of the roll control package on Ares 1X because early on 3 years ago we weren't sure exactly what that roll component was going to be, the behavior of the solid in that axis. And we've been building that data set as we go. This is a great data point for us.
Yeah, this is really a part of flight testing. You generally will design for your uncertainties. So if you can have a nominal what you expect, but there are always uncertainties on that and combinations of things that can happen that would tend to throw you off nominal. So you tend to cover all those cases to make sure you have a robust design. But flight tests like today helps you learn about that. You can reduce your uncertainties and design for the real case. So that's why you do these, and we always learn from them.
Totally different topic, really, for Ed. And please take this as a question and not a criticism. I know it'll sound the other way, but from watching an awful lot of countdowns here over many decades, the internal communications, both today and yesterday, seemed a little rocky. I wonder if that's a fair assessment of getting that information exchange back and forth among that team, that group of people, and whether it's worth looking at in your post-mission analysis, really.
Okay, well, I would say the communications this time was different than what we've seen on many shuttles, and it was designed to be a little bit different. We are, besides looking at the hardware and how the hardware is designed, we're also changing some of the ways we do our test team, and I think I talked about those a little bit the other day, how we're doing a launch authority team, how we're doing the prime launch team. I can tell you the prime launch team did outstanding. They did outstanding both days. The launch authority team did outstanding both days. I think the communications areas that it all worked very well, but you're right. After two attempts yesterday and today, we're going to increase on that learning curve. The more flight tests we do, the better off we'll be, and we'll learn from those experiences. Like any flight test, it's a learning experience. So we're going to take what we've experienced in the last 2 days and then take those lessons from that and see how we need to improve and or change how we do our communications. I think the communications we did with the range and weather, I can't say enough about how the range supported what our needs were, and how the launch weather officer, Kathy Winters, did outstanding in supporting what we needed. We definitely put her in a box sometimes, and she was very calm and said, this is what we got to go do. And so that communication I thought also worked very well. But like anything, you take your lessons and then you immediately go figure out what you can improve on. So if we were to go launch another test rocket in a short period of time, we would take this team and it would even be better than it was today.
Back here.
Steve Lee from the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. To anyone or perhaps everyone on the panel, what messages would you like today's test flight to be sending to the next generation of rocket scientists that just happened to be in middle school today?
This is darn fun stuff.
Yeah, also the fact that we do these things once every couple of decades, it seems, and it's unfortunate we do it that way. But this is the time to do it again. And so middle school is the perfect age, high school is the perfect age to come do this. And we did it for Apollo, we did it for Shuttle, and now we're ready to do it again. So this is the time. So come join us.
And we're at the beginning steps of the next phase of exploration. So this is the sort of thing that when I was younger inspired me. This is the next step in human exploration, and there is interest in definite interest in going beyond low Earth orbit to discover new things out in the solar system, learn more about the solar system that we live in, and so this is an exciting time. This is really the first big step we've taken in that direction in a long time, and for me, for these guys, it's been 3 years. I think the first study that I helped lead on exploration was about 20 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, and so it's taken me a little longer than it has them to get to this point, but it's. I think you're also seeing the efforts of teamwork, and really ultimately, in all ways, this is about people. It's about discovery and the things that we learn for society and our country, and it's about the people who do these efforts, the teamwork, the leadership, all the things like that are learned along the way, and so it's those are the kind of messages I think I would like to see go out.
Todd? And I would just say that it proves that anything is possible. When I was a young kid trying to figure out what to go do, and I saw NASA and I saw the space program, that those guys can do anything. We can get to the moon, we can build a space station. And so today what you saw, I think, was a first step, which is what I told my team post-launch, was they help prove anything is possible. And like Doug said, it's all about the people. The metal is there, all the engineering is there, but it's the people that make that happen. And for future engineers or whatever, we need those engineers in order to make these kind of things happen, in order to make anything happen that is great for this country.
Todd Halverson of Florida Today. I suspect a lot of those youngsters might be watching TV today and saying, "Do it again." And you know, your direction from the White House right now is to plunge ahead with Project Constellation and the development of the Ares 1 rocket. And I'm wondering if you could just lay out for us what some of the big milestones are coming up and when we're going to see them. And right now, when is Ares 1Y? What will that test be like, and why is it going to take so long to get to it?
Well, great question. Well, the next thing on our plate, as I think either Ed or Bob referred to, is Pad Abort 1, which will be next spring, and that'll be the first test of the launch abort system on the Orion. We have a boilerplate capsule that's basically another one of these highly instrumented models, if you will, similar to the upper stage simulator on Ares 1X. We've got that delivered down to the White Sands Missile Range. It's been outfitted with hundreds of measurement instruments, and it's being loaded with parachutes. Its abort motor has been delivered to White Sands, and it will be fired there in the desert sometime next spring. and will demonstrate the ability of that system to safely motor the capsule away from the launch pad and allow the capsule to land safely, which is a key part of and will be a key part of any human launch system as far as safety is concerned. Beyond that, our flight test program is something we constantly have under review with respect to schedule, budget, content. Ares 1Y is something that we've had in our plan for quite some time for March of 2014 off of the launch pad here, launch pad 39, 39B. It was scoped to be another suborbital flight that would demonstrate the operation of the first stage, the 5-segment first stage, and the launch abort system after the separation event. What we call a high altitude abort. We have studied putting an engine on that flight. It was originally defined in a time frame when the engine would not be ready, and we continually revisit that to see if we can't get an engine to the upper stage to actually fly on that flight, and if we could at least start the engine and prove that the engine will start at altitude. So we continue to review that. We are probably paced most by the availability of budget to buy long lead parts for both Orion and Ares, and we've been we were under a continuing resolution for the first half of 2009. We're under a continuing resolution now, and that puts pressure on a program that wants to be ramping up to its peak right in this time frame, building toward the critical design review. Our critical design reviews will be end of next year for Orion and into 2011 for Ares. But progress is already underway to build components. The J2X engine is being manufactured now. It's passed its critical design review. It's being manufactured now. It will go into test in early 2011. The Orion is the first copy of the Orion's being welded together right now at the Michoud facility down in Louisiana, and that will be our first ground test article that we'll put through a bunch of testing through the next couple years to understand the way that system behaves. Buying the parts in terms of electronics and batteries and so forth, getting those systems assembled and tested is work still ahead of us. But the successful PDR in August was a big milestone for the Orion team, and they're going to move ahead quickly to their CDR at the end of next year. And then the work here at the Kennedy Space Center. I mean, this week the Orion team should be taking delivery of some tooling for the factory here. Orion's factory is here on the premises. Orion's will be built here at the Kennedy Space Center, and that is coming together. They're largely ready to start assembling Orions just as soon as they can start to receive the parts. The launch complex is undergoing its mods. If you drive by the vehicle assembly building, you'll see the mobile launcher under construction. 2 tiers of the tower already up, with a third tier going up perhaps this week. The vehicle assembly building with the designs for the inside of the vehicle assembly building are complete. We're about ready to go out for a procurement on that, so that we can get that done, and so on and on. We're continuing to make progress on the system. And as far as the flight test schedule is concerned, we will be looking at our opportunities to perhaps do more flight testing, but that'll also be predicated on the budget.
James?
James Dean from Florida Today. For Mr. Hanley or Mr. Cook, to your point about the budget, how much would an increase in funding of the magnitude that the Augustine Commission recommended help, if at all, in speeding up your IOC or meeting it? And likewise, is there anything about today's test, if the data comes back just with everything looking extremely positive, how much does that increase your confidence in making your target, or is there even a potential that it could help move it up?
Well, I think more money sooner is good, right? It gets those parts purchased, right? Gets them into the supply chain. These systems take about 3 years to build. From the time you put in the order for an Orion, 3 years later you'll get a finished copy, or a rocket. That includes the supply chain for the parts. So you have to get the design done. You have to know what you want to buy, and then put your orders in and get your parts, and then you can start assembling the spacecraft. So that by definition is going to take 2-3 years to do. So that's what puts us out in the 2014 timeframe for this system. If you'd seen a picture of our funding curve, you'd see that there's this flat nature to it through this fiscal year, FY10, and then it jumps up markedly, and that's just the nature of what we're doing. We're trying to develop this new system while we fly out the space shuttle, and then apply some of the money that had been used for space shuttle to the future development of these new systems. And so that's been a tight fiscal management challenge for the agency. I think, as Augustine, the Augustine panel commented, it was that we've done pretty much what we said we would do. We all would like to fly sooner. I wish Orion was flying in 2012 or 2013. We had a plan, as you know, at one time for the first human launch of Orion to be in September of 2013. The funding didn't materialize for that, so we had adjusted our schedule. That's really the what we have to do, budget cycle to budget cycle, and we manage that very closely. And we will get the system flying as early as the funds available allow.
Any questions on this side of the room? Right here.
John Mangles from the Plain Dealer in Cleveland. I guess for Jeff, I know you guys didn't want to hear this word again, but I wanted to ask about tribo-electrification. What would it have taken to certify the vehicle, and can you give us some sense of what the discussion was about why not to do that?
Besides being a big word, it's a big subject. It's not so much certifying the vehicle. It wasn't really a conscious decision that we made. We're not going to do the program. There's a lot of different ways to address it, and really it's to protect the vehicle from itself. If the vehicle flies through a cloud or something like that, it could cause enough charge on the outside of the rocket to either interfere with communications or affect the electronics. So the concept is there for a good reason. There's a few different ways to go do that, one of which that vehicles do. You can coat the vehicle or do something that would help dissipate the charge. And that's unusual. We don't do it for the shuttle. We don't do it on our rocket. The other way is to show that your vehicle is not particularly sensitive to that effect. It may happen, but your electronics may not really be affected by it. And so that's not a rule that we have, a weather rule we have for shuttle. And we inherited a lot of shuttle rules and a lot of shuttle people. And so when we went through 1X, we didn't fully appreciate, I think, the implications of some of these rules that are meant for brand new rockets or brand new launch vehicles and how it applies to us. And we believe, and we've done analysis the last few days that shows that our vehicle isn't that sensitive to it either. What we didn't do is go to the range up front and said, here's our analysis that shows that effect, therefore we don't have to go through and follow these stringent rules. So part of it is the learning curve, understanding with flight test what that really means, differentiating ourselves from the last couple of decades of shuttle. This was not something that we were used to dealing with. And again, if we did it again, in fact, next week, we could probably show that we're good with it, wouldn't have these constraints. But that one just kind of was a surprise to us. It really was a bigger implication to us than we expected.
Just one more thing that you learn from flight test is you run up against these things as you go, and you learn from them. So this is something that we now know that we're going to be working with. So we're learning from it. So just one more thing that shows the value of what we've done.
Hi, Rory O'Neill with Westwood One Radio. One quick one. Do you know how many launch times you actually set over the past 2 days? Did anyone laugh? I mean, we were laughing in the room at one point, especially yesterday when it was the sock, the ship, the weather. Is there any point where it just became humorous? Because it did seem like for a while like a comedy of errors for about a half-hour stretch there yesterday.
only laughed to a point. After that, we started crying, I think. But
Let's see. I don't look at it as a comedy of errors as much as it beats any reality show I've ever seen. See, I don't know the exact number, although there was actually a bet going on how many we would do today. In reality, I would say that we really did two. We got down to 4 minutes yesterday, and then we continued on down, and then we ended up having the rule violated about 2 minutes and 39 seconds or so prior to launch, and so and then we tried to recycle from there, and then by the time we got through recycle and looked for more opportunities, we lost the rest of the window. So I would say officially in my mind we tried twice yesterday, and the second time we lost window. Today we moved the launch time a couple times, but in the end we only went down from 4 minutes down to 0 once. It is different than shuttle. Shuttle we can hold for a long period of time. When the problem is picked up, we pick up the count right away. Here with again, you got shuttle hardware, you got Atlas hardware, and so in this particular hardware you got to set a resume time, and because of that it looks like we have multiple attempts, but it's how you work the avionics between the flight and the ground, and it's different than shuttle, so it looks different. So if someone can count them, I'd like to know how many times we moved that launch time. But in my mind, it was twice yesterday and once today.
Yeah, we got. Oh, go ahead.
Let me just comment. I think I was very impressed with the team and how they worked through the various problems the last 2 days. Yesterday and today probably were unlike maybe even the hardest sim that they were seeing in their launch simulations. Between getting down to the wire and having a ship go into the area and the sock. That was high drama, and cheers went up when it came off. So that was enjoyable drama. We really were kind of looking for a replay on that one, but so I think the team hasn't actually. They've worked hard, and they've been very professional in working through the issues, getting past the lightning strike situation this morning was done probably in record time, but done thoroughly. But I think the team enjoyed working together and enjoyed the light moments when they came. So it's all a part of being with the team and part of the team.
Okay, we've got time for about 2 more follow-ups. Bobby, you had one, and then we'll go to Jay.
Bobby Locke from the Orlando Sentinel with 2 quick ones. One is, apart from the dreaded T word and the flight restrictions that this vehicle had to undergo, is it going to be the same kinds of flight restrictions you imagine for Ares 1? And the second question was, before today, when anything was possible, you said don't read too much about the results, today's results. Do you guys regret now saying that?
Well, let's see. Tribo electrification will not be an issue for Ares 1. But if for no other reason than just this experience giving us plenty of heads up to be able to address that issue. As Bob pointed out, if this launch had slipped a week or two, we had been collecting the data to be able to go and I think make a pretty strong case to the range that we did not in fact have a problem or as tight a restriction as the rules suggest. I'm sorry? About the tribo electrification, the clouds, and so it will not be an issue for Ares 1. It will not. In fact, we have a design specification for natural environments that is really rather stringent in putting very aggressive natural environment requirements on Ares 1 and Orion to make sure that what we call our launch availability is maximized here for launching from Central Florida. So tribo electrification, got it out, was not covered in that. We learned something here. So that's a great lesson learned, and so it won't be an issue. And then the second part of your question, Bobby, I'm sorry.
I wanted to know, when you all were saying that, well, I was curious about the wind restriction as well, which you didn't mention, but the other part of the question was when, you're saying don't read too much into the test results, and now I wonder if you feel like, you regret that.
Well, and I'll let these guys comment on that as well. But no, I don't regret it. The test results, the actual data from the flight will be very valuable, and I think we've said that all along. And even those that have independently looked at us said that regardless of what happens with Ares, this flight was going to provide very valuable engineering data. I think what we've consistently said, though, is that much of the gold that was to be mined from Ares 1X we had already realized before even launching. And that is, for example, the process of going through certifying that the system was ready to fly. We found bad assumptions, errors in computer models, and what have you, that we would have stumbled over on Ares 1 if we had continued, and that would have caused us delays down in the 2014 time frame. So, and now down in that time frame, it's very expensive month by month if it's on the critical path, and so just saving a month or two of schedule down in that time frame on the Ares 1 program, this flight probably paid for itself, if you think of it that way. So what we've learned, but before even launching, was of incredible value. The experience of the team was incredibly valuable. And it's almost to the point where the engineering data and performance data we got today was a bonus. A very, very nicely acquired bonus. And
if I can follow up real quick on your wind question, we picked 20 knots probably a year and a half ago or 2 years ago as a placard. What that does, it allows the engineering team to analyze the one number as opposed to iterating. And just to make it as compact as possible, we said we'll do 20 knots, and therefore if we get any wind-induced oscillation, the rocket just rotates back and forth, it'd be covered under that. In reality, we have a whole lot more margin than that. We on 1X could have gone higher than 20 knots, but we didn't go back to do our analysis over again.
Jay, you've got the last question.
Just for the record for Bob and Ed and Jeff, long before you were born, there was a chimpanzee called Ham they tried to put up. Took them several days to do that, and also Enos, and then when they got to Alan Shepard, it was 5 straight days of winds and resetting times. In fact, they told Alan, you're only going to fly for 15 minutes. Well, he had to wet his pants because they kept him on the launch pad several hours, kept resetting the launch time. So you guys are pikers. You did nothing. You did it in a couple of days. So that's just for the record. But Jeff, look, it's obvious I don't put too much faith in commercial. I know we're going to get to commercial. What I would like to know, you were telling me the other day that Ares 1 has been a target for the panel, it looks like. And if you cancel our Ares 1 and you go to light Ares 5, telling me, you need a year to lay the plans and then 80 months to get there. So we're talking 9 years or so before we could fly astronauts again. Now, if we stick with Ares 1, how soon can we for sure fly American astronauts?
Well, Jay, for sure means 100% probability, and I would probably, in that case, agree with what the Augustine Commission largely came up with, 2016, late 2016 or early 2017. I think the executability of this plan, as demonstrated by today's performance, is something within reach inside that time frame. 2016 certainly. 2015, I tend to believe is still very achievable in that respect. Will it be March? I couldn't say today.
Using the same rationale, what would you say for Ares 5 light?
Well, and
Nothing
Ares 5 and what I quoted you the other day was a typical development for a major rocket system. 80-ish months is a typical development. One could be more aggressive, take more risk that way. But that's the scale of from the time you start until you have success is on that order. Is what history tells us. And so the intervening time, we would certainly look to do flight tests, probably to buy down risk to our plan, but it would take probably about that long before it was space-worthy.
2020 and
2017, 2018, 2019 is it depends on how aggressive one wants to be, what kind of priority it receives.
Well,
we crafted a plan for Orion Ares 1, as I said earlier, that in the beginning could have achieved September of 2013 if it had received the funding that was required to make that happen. As it turned out that we didn't.
Well, the Columbia Accident Investigation Board was very staunch in their belief that we should separate cargo and astronauts, as you're doing here with Ares 1. And to fly the astronauts safely is something ratio, I think, 45 times safer on this that you flew today, or the predecessor of what you're going to fly in Ares 1. Now, you would have to, if you go to Ares 5 Light, you'd have to fly some cargo on each one. You'd have to use 2 vehicles, right? I mean, if you were going to go out of Earth orbit.
The concept that Augustine has looked at, yes, is a lunar lander flies on one vehicle, and the crew exploration vehicle, which is a somewhat different Orion than the one we're building today, would fly on the other. And so you would launch 2 of these big, heavy rockets in order to do a moon mission. That's the concept that the Augustine panel was looking at.
So we're not going to have anything to put astronauts on for some time now.
Well, that's the decisions that's in front of the national leadership, right?
All right, that is going to conclude our briefing, and it concludes our coverage of the Ares 1X launch. Thank you.